Simon. I was going to say Simon isn't here, but there he was, all of a sudden. Yeah. Welcome. Sorry we're running a wee bit late.
That's okay. Hi everyone, my name is Simon Kingham. I think I know most of you, if not all. I'll just tell you what I do very briefly. I'm a professor of geography at the University of Canterbury. I teach on urban issues, including quite a lot of stuff on transport. I used to be on the Regional Land Transport Committee until they decided they didn't need experts. And I was on the Urban Development Strategy. But in the last year, I've been seconded 2 days a week to the Ministry of Transport as Chief Science Advisor. So my role there is to advise officials and the Minister on the evidence base of transport policies. So that's what I do. My submission is entirely about transport, and it is actually just about the cycleways and the funding for the major cycle routes. And I've given some information based on some research I've done in my submission and on some other research. And I don't want to go over that, but just to come up with the main summaries. And I guess the main point is that I want to commend you for prioritising the major cycleways. And ask that you continue to do that, because I think there's a very strong evidence base that says that investing in cycle infrastructure is incredibly effective use of money and is really good value. And I hope my submission outlines that. I just want to clarify a couple of things. And there are some myths about cycleways. I just want to go over a couple of things. One is that, as I mentioned, the economic benefits of investing in them are great. And there's heaps of evidence all around the world to say that. The main barrier to people cycling is perceived safety. It's not actual safety, because actually cycling isn't as unsafe as people pretend, but the reality is that if people don't feel safe, they won't cycle. And that's why we know that we have to produce separated cycleways. And the reality is they are more expensive. So please don't anyone say we can paint white lines on the road, because it doesn't work. People don't feel safe, even if they may be. So the stuff we're building at the moment, the high quality stuff, is essential if we want to keep doing that. We are also trying to encourage new people to cycle. So the last people you want to ask about whether they feel safe on the road is me, because I cycle, and it's not some of you here, because I know some of you cycle. It's actually people who don't cycle, and they will not feel safe cycling on infrastructure that is just a painted white line. You actually do need to build high quality stuff. I want to make a comment on businesses. There is this myth that businesses do badly with cycle lanes outside their door. Generally, overall, the evidence is really clear that businesses actually do better, and there's a lot of research in places like New York where they've looked at this. There will, without a doubt, be odd instances of businesses that don't do as well. And over a short period of time, particularly when cycleways are being built, some businesses will suffer. And I guess if there's some way we can mitigate that, that's great. But the reality is that overall businesses do better when cycleways are there, and there's loads of research from all around the world to back that up. And so if businesses come and say, my business will close, the likelihood is it won't, but there may be odd instances. Same with other organisations. People say, my school or my church or other organisation or whatever it is will close if a cycleway goes near them. There's no evidence that that is the case. The majority of evidence says the opposite. I just want to finish by saying I think the cycleways are not just about encouraging more people to cycle. They're actually trying to turn Christchurch into an incredibly car-dependent city, into a city for the future. And we've got things like climate change. We've got an obesity epidemic, and we actually need to change the way this city looks. And the cycleways are part of that. What we're trying to do is actually transform our city, not just tweak and tinker with it. Christchurch also is, I think, geographically ideal for cycling. If I was sitting here in Auckland, you could probably say it's too hilly and it's too wet and the weather's not right, and you'd probably be right. But Christchurch doesn't have that. We have heaps of space to put cycle infrastructure. We have very wide transport corridors. The climate is generally pretty good. Let's ignore yesterday. But generally it's pretty good for cycling. The city's a really good size, because most of us, even from the edge of the city into the centre, is not much more than 10 kilometres, and that's not bad for a cycle. So we're not a really big city. And the topography, except people who live on the Port Hills, and that's a relatively small proportion of us, the topography is really good. We live in an incredibly flat city, which makes Christchurch should be the cycling, it should be the Copenhagen of the South, and there's actually nothing to stop it, but the key is we have to invest. The other point I'd make is that I just want to say I think don't view this as the end. Don't view that when we built the 13 cycleways we've done our job. If you look at the Netherlands, they didn't stop after 3 years of building cycleways. They've carried on, and they now have this amazing environment where lots of people cycle. And I haven't ever seen the numbers, but I imagine they can claim that they've saved an enormous amount of money over the years from the infrastructure. I I'd also say, if anyone's a doubter here, please ask me questions. I'm quite happy to ask really difficult questions. I know you're going to ask me a question, so, and I know you're not a doubter, but if there are people who don't believe the evidence, please ask me anything. I'm always happy, not just today, but any time, to answer any questions about this.
Sarah, you've got 10 seconds.
Sorry, yes.
Just briefly on the network impacts, but individual cycleways doing quite well at the moment, numbers are increasing. What's
Yep.
the importance of a network being completed as opposed
Yep.
to individual cycleways?
So if you don't live near a cycleway, you can't use it, and it's clear that the worst bit of the route will be the thing that determines whether people use it. So we do have to fill the gaps in, and we do have to continue to look at where we don't have cycleways. So people will still get round the bad bits if they have to, even if it means walking on the pavement, and I know they're probably not meant to do that. But it's worth saying we do want to get a really good network. Yep.
Yep. All right. Well, look, thank you, Simon. It's always good to hear from you. I mean, and I think that the evidence base is really important, and really it should be everything that we do is based on the evidence.
Yep.
And this certainly stacks up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So we were supposed to stop for a quick break now. Is the tea and coffee outside? Is it?